Hey everybody, Crow back again, and it looks like we've got another Williams Pinball Table Pack from Zen Studios on our hands. This time it's Table Pack number 5, and included are Tales of the Arabian Nights, Circus Voltaire, and No Good Gofers. So this pretty much confirms that the numbered table packs will have tables that do not require additional licenses, while the unnumbered table packs will have tables that do require additional licenses, and will have a more descriptive table pack name, like the Universal Monsters table pack that was released not too long ago. This table pack, like all Williams table packs so far, will run you $9.99. However, I need to mention that Zen Studios did provide a code to me, so I did not pay for this table pack myself. I will say that I'm solely focusing on the Steam version of the game, as I really don't play this on any other platform, so the footage you'll see in this video will be from the Steam version with the family mode disabled, meaning there will be nothing altered or censored on these tables. The PS4, Xbox One, and Switch versions of the game have family mode enabled with no way to disable it due to the ESRB rating of Pinball FX3, and there is currently no way to disable it on these consoles. But I really won't go into depth about these changes here, as I will have a separate video for that, just like I have done for all the previous table packs. This table pack has the same bells and whistles that you've seen from previous table packs, such as the 3 different challenge modes, power-ups with Zen physics, and the realistic table physics playable in arcade or tournament settings that include new flipper physics that were introduced in Table Pack 4, and the ability to turn enhancements on or off. So enough with an intro, let's start talking about our first table here, Tales of the Arabian Nights. This table was released by Williams in May of 1996, and it was designed by John Papaduke. 3,128 of these machines were produced. Now this table is based on 7 tales of the Arabian Nights, as well as fighting an evil genie and rescuing the kidnapped princess. For each tale you complete, you'll earn a jewel for your scimitar, or you can just run the lamp in the middle of the table and wish for jewels. Once all the jewels are collected, the battle for the princess with the evil genie will begin. Now this is an absolutely beautiful looking table in real life, and Zen Studios does a fantastic job of replicating that here. There's only one ramp on the table, but that can divert the ball down multiple paths, including some clear elevated pathways, which can create the illusion of the ball floating eerily around the table. The biggest toy on the table has to be that giant blue bashable genie, and the spinnable magic lamp, which is held up slightly above the table by 2 posts. Hitting these posts is what causes the lamp to spin, and spinning it enough will allow you to hit the nearby hole to summon the good genie to grant you a wish of your choice. I also need to mention the magnet in front of the giant genie, because it will cause the ball to move unnaturally, as well as providing a secret passage under the table, which is pretty cool looking, especially if you're not expecting it. Finally, there are shooting stars which will trap the ball above the in lane when activated, preventing the ball from potentially draining out the out lane. The table is really good looking here in Pinball FX3, but let's compare it to the Pinball Arcade version. Alright, so here we have the Pinball Arcade version on the left and the Pinball FX3 version on the right. The Pinball Arcade version, you can adjust the lighting, but I've left it at the default levels, which was 50% room, 50% bulb lighting. Ideally, the table would look better if you lowered the lighting, but this is the way the game presents itself to you, so that's the way I left it. And I'm not really going to point out really any details at all. This is just for your viewing. And the reason I used to point out details, but I'm going to stop doing that because people always point out details I miss. And there are some people out there that actually prefer the way the Pinball Arcade version looks, although most people do like the way the Pinball FX3 version looks better, me being included. I think it looks way better, but you will notice that there's certain things that are colored differently. And the genie in particular looks a little bit more muscly in the Pinball FX3 version. But this is just something I'd throw in the video just so you can see a comparison of what the Pinball Arcade version looked like compared to the Pinball FX3 version. And now we'll move on to what happens if you turn the enhancements on for Tales of the Arabian Nights in the Pinball FX3 version. The biggest change with the enhancements on has to be the genie, as he is now fully animated and will actually grow bigger during multi-ball. The magic lamp also gets some extra animations, with purple smoke emitting while spinning, or lightning striking it during the lightning lamp mode. The ball will actually turn into a fireball when the genie throws it at you. And the last big thing is that there are now 7 jewels on the apron of the table, and they will fly into the scimitar when they are collected. Those are the biggest things I feel, but there are plenty other smaller touches as well, such as the laughing skull head off to the left, the basket with the snake by the skill shot, the shooting stars hitting the table, and the flying carpet which hovers near the genie and provides you with an extra ball if you earn one. Also, the bottle on the apron will hover in between you and the genie during the final battle for the princess. Now, this table has been available from Farsight Studios for quite a while, going back as far as 2009 with the Pinball Hall of Fame for the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3. In fact, it was one of my earliest gameplay videos on YouTube where I just pointed a camera at the screen while I played. It's really quite a... I had an opportunity there and I missed it. Okay, no, missing it. I'm missing it completely. The point is, I've played this table a lot, through Pinball Hall of Fame and the Pinball Arcade, and this new version by Zen Studios breathes a whole lot of life back into the game with cleaner graphics and much improved physics. When I was streaming this game and capturing footage, I could not stop playing the game and trying out different strategies. It's not too difficult to get to the end game on this one, especially since you can just wish for all the jewels you need to initiate the final battle. But it can be a challenge to beat the genie because the final confrontation gives you unlimited balls. And that might not sound like a bad thing, but when you consider there's no automatic ball launcher on this table, depending on how you're controlling the game, it can be very difficult to manually launch balls onto the table while simultaneously trying to juggle multiple balls on the table. And losing balls during this final battle will give the advantage to the genie in the final tug of war for the princess. But that's not really a knock against Zen Studios' version of this table, because the real table has this issue as well. And so enough of Tales of the Arabian Night, let's move on to our next table here, which is Circus Voltaire, which was released by Bally in October of 1997, was designed by John Papaduke, and 2,704 of these machines were produced. And this is a circus-themed table that has you performing all sorts of circus marvels, as well as battling the ringmaster several times in your quest to join the circus. Now, the first thing you'll notice about this table is that the dot matrix display, or DMD, is not where you would normally find it on the back box. Instead, it's at the back of the playfield under the glass. This was more than likely done so the player wouldn't have to look away from the playfield to see the DMD, and it also allows for some interactivity with the ball, like when a ball is locked for high wire multi-ball. The back box has a cannonball feature that is used for a minigame, and there are a few other striking things that are initially visible on the table, such as the neon light that runs along the right side of the table, and the menagerie ball that's on the left side of the table. On the real table, the color of the neon light and the ball could vary table by table, so Zen Studios added a feature that allows you to change the color before starting the game if you want. But that's not all. Upon inspection of the table, you may find it strange that there's only 2 pop bumpers on the table, but there's actually 3. The third pop bumper, which is called the Boom Balloon, is actually hidden under the table and only pops up during certain times in the game. Finally, near the back of the table, the ringmaster's head will emerge with a magnet on his head to hold the ball on top of him as he emerges. He is also a bash toy, as hitting him multiple times is required to defeat him. Now, Zen Studios did a great job with this table as well, even lowering the lighting to allow lighting effects to shine more on this table. But let's do a little comparison with the Pinball Arcade version. And again, we're back to comparing the table with the Pinball Arcade version, which is on the left, Pinball FX3, of course, being on the right. Now, this is one where I should have probably lowered the lighting in the Pinball Arcade version, but again, this is how the table presents itself when you start playing the game without making any adjustments, so I left it at the default lighting. But yes, it would have looked better if I'd lowered the lighting by far in the Pinball Arcade version. But it is interesting that in the Pinball FX version, they did lower the lighting, at least on the table, so the lights could shine through a bit more. Because this is kind of a table that likes to, with the neon lighting and everything, those are really cool effects when the lighting is lower. But yeah, and another thing I've noticed is that the face of the ringmaster seems like completely different. He seems a little bit more evil in the Pinball Arcade version. Now I haven't really gone and looked up pictures to see which is more accurate, and it may be that there were two different models for the ringmaster's head. But yeah, again, this is just showing you, side-by-side differences. You draw your own conclusions. So, enough of that. Let's move on to what happens when you put the enhancements on for Circus Voltaire in Pinball FX3. The thing you'll notice the most when turning enhancements on is that the ringmaster is now a fully animated character that's constantly making exaggerated movements and noises. And while this can be entertaining for a while, I also like the way he juggles during multi-ball, he can be very distracting. And because of that, I can see many people not wanting to play with the enhancements activated for this table. Another thing that's been added is a little canopy above the ball lock area on the high wire. It's an interesting addition, but I personally don't like it because you can't see how many balls are locked up there. There are a few other additions that aren't as distracting though, such as the balloon popping when the boom balloon pop bumper is hit, and the cannons firing up on the apron. And the huge ringmaster face now has some minor additional animations, which I think are very nice and actually quite subtle as well. This table overall is very unique. It definitely stands out with the neon lighting and the DMD under the glass, and what I consider to be a very unique layout. For me, it's not a table I liked initially because of the layout, but over time it's grown on me. But I still wouldn't consider it to be one of my favorites, and I know I may be in the minority on that because this table is just narrowly outside of the top 10 solid state list on the Internet Pinball database. But I suppose it's feel like I never have complete control while I'm making a lot of shots. But that just might be me and my mindset, because I really wasn't having too much trouble completing all the marvels and making it to the Join the Circus final mode. Now granted, I haven't been able to finish that mode yet, but I can usually get there. One legitimate complaint I've heard about this version of the table is that while the lighting on the table was adjusted to allow for the table lighting to appear more impressive, the lighting of the background area was not, which some have mentioned makes the background area more distracting, and personally it doesn't bother me, but I can see how some would be annoyed by this. Perhaps Zen Studios will allow a change in background lighting, or just a change in background period in the future. But let's move on to our final table in this pack, No Good Gofers, which was released by Williams in December of 1997. It was designed by Pat Lawler, and 2,711 of these machines were produced. Now this is a golf-themed table where you try to complete 18 holes while dealing with two talking gophers named Bud and Buzz that seem to want to sabotage your game, or at least annoy you. One of the main draws of this table is that the golfers themselves pop up from under the ramps to taunt you. If you're quick, you can hit them for some extra points, but they also can be hit to reveal ball locks hidden behind them. Another feature is the spinning prize wheel, but the biggest feature on this table for me is the ramp that lowers down to allow you to attempt for a hole-in-one. But the way the game really works is that you have to hit a few drives on the table and then shoot the putting green to finish the hole and move on to the next one. There are many different modes that activate in between holes, but the more holes you finish, the bigger your end of ball bonus will be, provided you finish each hole with as few strokes as possible. And as with the previous tables in this pack, the graphics look good, the gameplay's great, but let's do our final comparison with the older Pinball Arcade version. And now here we are back doing our final Pinball Arcade comparison for this video, this time on No Good Gofers. Of course, the lighting default settings on Pinball Arcade, they could stand to be a bit dimmer, but this is the plainer looking table of all three. There's no really fancy lights going on. There's no need to really have it dark. But yeah, you draw your own conclusions. This table may give you a better idea when comparing ball physics side by side. I didn't mention it, but everything in the Pinball FX3 version I've been showing you has been single player classic mode in the arcade setting, not the tournament setting. So you've got the more realistic physics on the Pinball FX3 side, but I'm sure you've noticed that by now. But again, this is really just for your comparison to view it, and maybe tell me what you think in the comments. But for right now, we're gonna move on to what happens when you turn the enhancements on for No Good Gofers. Now the biggest addition here with the enhancements turned on is the fully animated golfer placed above the pop bumpers, who will usually stay out of your way of the playfield visually, but will sometimes dance and jump around wildly, which can be entertaining, but could also be a bit distracting. But I do find it humorous when you lose the ball and he bends the golf club and throws it. It's even funnier when it's the last ball and it boomerangs back and hits him. The only other major enhancement is the rocket that sits on the apron, because it will launch and cause huge explosions. The only other enhancement that's worth mentioning is that when the gopher steals your ball, aka the ball lock, the stockpile of gopher balls stolen appear on the apron, and when multi-ball starts, a rocket blasts off and explodes on the ball pile. Personally, this is my favorite table in the pack, and it just might be because of the hole-in-one shot. It's so satisfying to hit that ramp and land the ball in the hole that I like just attempting to do it again and again and again. Aside from that, the humor in this game is top-notch, with the Gophers providing a lot of humorous commentary, especially during different modes. I especially like when the game breaks the fourth wall and Bud finds wires all under the playfield and starts chewing on them.
I can feel the power! That's all those wires down there.
Another thing is this is a game where I really haven't figured everything out, so I like coming back to this one just to see what I can discover and to see how many holes I can complete before that final ball drains. And that's where I'll wrap things up. This is another fantastic table pack from Zen Studios, and although I know there are those of you out there that may be disappointed that these are another 3 tables that were previously in the Pinball Arcade, I would still recommend trying these new versions out. The tables look better, and the physics are far better, and although Pinball Arcade had the advantage with better gameplay instructions and lighting options, everything else is arguably superior here in this version. It's a world of difference, and I personally can't see myself going back to the Pinball Arcade version, and I really think that $9.99 is a great price for these 3 tables. And that's it! If you've made it this far and you've liked the video, I would recommend liking the video. And if you're not yet subscribed, I would recommend subscribing, as I've got plenty of videos just like this one, and there will be more to come. I would also recommend checking out my Twitch channel, Crow Pinball, as I've been more active over there as well as streaming maybe 8 to 10 hours of this table pack on Twitch. So yeah, check that out if you're not over on Twitch. And with that, I'll see you all next time.